Tay Richard had always been a savvy businessman, but more than that, he was a true romantic. That was why everyone was so delighted when he walked down the aisle with Sarah. The venue, a grand estate bathed in the warm glow of late afternoon, buzzed with excitement. Guests, dressed in their finest, mingled, their conversations filled with anticipation. Floral arrangements, bursting with color, adorned every corner, and delicate lights twinkled, creating a magical atmosphere. Music, soft and inviting, filled the air, enhancing the joyous mood. Laughter and excited chatter punctuated the atmosphere, a testament to the love surrounding the couple. Then, a hush fell as the bridal march began. Sarah, stunning in her white gown, entered, her smile radiant. Tay, waiting at the altar, stood completely captivated. The instant their eyes met, a palpable wave of emotion swept through the gathering. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated happiness. Their love, evident in every glance, promised a lifetime of shared joy. The ceremony proceeded, a beautiful declaration of their commitment, culminating in the joyous exchange of vows. The reception that followed was a lively celebration, filled with heartfelt speeches and dancing. The reception was in full swing. Guests danced, laughed, and celebrated Tay and Sarah's union. Then, without warning, the joyous atmosphere shattered. A collective gasp rippled through the room as Tay and Sarah simultaneously collapsed. The music abruptly ceased, replaced by a stunned silence, then a surge of panicked voices. Guests rushed forward, their faces etched with disbelief and horror. The scene descended into chaos. People frantically called for help, their voices filled with terror. Attempts to revive the couple were desperate and hurried. The vibrant celebration transformed into a scene of utter confusion and dread. The air, moments before filled with laughter and music, now vibrated with fear. The suddenness of the event, the stark contrast between the joyous celebration and the horrifying reality, created a sense of profound shock. The expressions on the faces of the wedding guests told the story, a complete and devastating disruption of what was supposed to be the happiest day of Tay and Sarah's lives. The beautiful venue, once a symbol of love and celebration, now held a scene of unimaginable tragedy. Tay Richard, a respected entrepreneur, was known for his sharp mind and generous spirit. He had built a successful business from the ground up, earning the admiration of his colleagues and the affection of his friends. Beyond his professional achievements, he was known for his unwavering loyalty and his deep capacity for love. Those who knew him spoke of his infectious enthusiasm and his ability to light up any room. Sarah, equally accomplished, was a rising star in her field. She was admired for her intelligence, her compassion, and her unwavering dedication to her work. Friends and family described her as a warm and radiant presence, someone who always put others first. Their love story was one of those rare, genuine connections, a partnership built on mutual respect and shared dreams. They had planned a future filled with travel, family, and continued success. Interviews with wedding guests revealed a shared sentiment. Tay and Sarah were a perfect match, a couple destined for a lifetime of happiness. The sudden and tragic end to their celebration left everyone reeling, a profound sense of loss hanging heavy in the air. How could such a joyous occasion transform into a nightmare? What could possibly motivate someone to commit such a devastating act on a wedding day? The abrupt shift from celebration to tragedy left everyone searching for answers. The perfect picture of happiness, shattered in an instant, raised a multitude of questions. The shock and disbelief were palpable. The radiant couple, surrounded by their loved ones, had their future stolen from them. The joyous atmosphere, replaced by a scene of panic and despair, left a chilling sense of unease. Have you ever experienced a moment where everything changed in an instant? Have you ever had a feeling that something was wrong, even without concrete evidence? Share your initial thoughts and theories in the comments below. I'd like to know where you are watching from. Tay Richard's ascent from a modest upbringing to the helm of a thriving company was a masterclass in the power of relentless curiosity and innate financial acumen. From his earliest days, Tay possessed a mind that was constantly seeking answers. He wasn't content with surface-level explanations. He wanted to understand the underlying mechanisms, the why behind every what. This inquisitive nature manifested in his early fascination with money. He wasn't driven by greed, but by a genuine interest in how it flowed, how it grew, and how it could be used to build something meaningful. Childhood photos reveal a young Tae, his brow furrowed in concentration, meticulously organizing his savings or engaging in spirited debates with adults about business concepts. His formal education provided a foundation, but it was his insatiable thirst for knowledge that truly propelled him forward. The initial stages of his entrepreneurial journey were far from smooth. He faced numerous setbacks, each one a painful but invaluable lesson. Where others might have succumbed to discouragement, Tae saw opportunities for growth. He immersed himself in the world of business, devouring industry publications, attending countless networking events, and seeking out mentors who could offer guidance. He was never afraid to ask dumb questions, understanding that true wisdom lay in acknowledging what you didn't know. His charisma proved to be a powerful asset. He had a natural ability to connect with people, to inspire them with his vision, and to build strong, collaborative teams. He fostered a company culture that valued innovation and encouraged open communication. His impact extended beyond his business, as he became a respected figure in Atlanta's philanthropic circles, dedicating his time and resources to supporting local initiatives. His story wasn't just about financial success. It was about the transformative power of curiosity, the resilience to overcome obstacles, and the unwavering belief in the potential to create something extraordinary. He was a man who had not only achieved his own dreams but was committed to empowering others to do the same. The narrative of Tae's life took a complex turn with the introduction of Jane, his longtime girlfriend. Their relationship, initially passionate and promising, had evolved over years, marked by both deep connection and growing friction. Jane, a vibrant and ambitious woman, had been a significant part of Tae's life, sharing in his early struggles and celebrating his initial successes. Pictures of them together captured moments of genuine affection, but also hinted at a certain tension, a subtle undercurrent of unease. Tae's relationship with Jane had been a significant part of his life for several years. They shared a history, a connection that seemed strong until external circumstances intervened. Their relationship, while passionate, was tested by the demands of their respective ambitions. The critical turning point came when Tae was required to travel extensively for business, a commitment that would keep him away for a year. Despite Tae's promises to make the long-distance relationship work, Jane expressed her inability to cope with the separation. She felt the strain of the distance would be too much, and she decided to end the relationship. Tae was disappointed but respected her decision, even though he had hoped they could find a way to navigate the challenge. Throughout their relationship, and during the difficult period leading up to their breakup, Sarah remained a close friend to both Tae and Jane. She was a confidant, someone they both turned to for support and advice. Sarah had been introduced to Tae through Jane, and they had developed a genuine platonic friendship. She often joined them on outings, and their interactions were always friendly and supportive. After the breakup, Tae found himself leaning on Sarah for emotional support. She was a source of comfort and understanding during a difficult time. As they spent more time together, their connection deepened and a romantic spark ignited. What began as a supportive friendship evolved into a genuine love. This evolution wasn't intentional, but rather a natural progression of their growing bond. Jane, however, perceived Sarah's support of Tae as interference, and felt betrayed by both of them. She felt that Sarah had taken advantage of her vulnerability and stolen Tae away. The seeds of resentment were sown, and the once close friendship between Jane and Sarah dissolved into bitterness. The end of Tae and Jane's relationship, though initiated by Jane due to the impending long-distance separation, left emotional scars. Despite her decision, Jane harbored a sense of loss and a lingering hope that Tae might reconsider. Tae, while respecting her choice, also felt a sense of sadness, but began to move forward. For years after the breakup, Tae and Sarah's friendship blossomed into something more. Their connection, built on years of platonic support and shared interests, deepened, and they began dating. Sarah, mindful of Jane's feelings, informed her of the developing relationship. Jane, surprisingly, offered no objections at the time. She expressed her understanding and wished them well, maintaining a facade of acceptance. 2 years into their relationship, Tay proposed to Sarah, and they began planning their wedding. However, beneath the surface, Jane's initial acceptance began to erode. The happiness she had feigned turned into a simmering resentment. She started to feel that she had been unjustly replaced, that Sarah had somehow stolen the life she believed should have been hers. The years of friendship between Sarah and Jane seemed to vanish, replaced by a growing bitterness. Jane's unresolved feelings for Tay, coupled with the perceived betrayal by Sarah, fueled her resentment. She replayed past moments, fixating on what she perceived as injustices. She began to send increasingly strained text messages to Tay, attempting to rekindle their connection or express her lingering hurt. These messages revealed her emotional turmoil, her inability to move on, and the widening chasm between her and Tay. Although initially Jane had no complaints about Tay and Sarah dating, the upcoming wedding brought all her feelings to the surface. The idyllic image of Tay and Sarah's impending wedding was shattered by a series of ominous threats that began to surface in the months leading up to the ceremony. At first, they appeared as subtle hints, unsettling comments from an unknown source, disguised as concern for Tay's well-being. But gradually, they escalated into direct threats, filled with malice and a chilling intent to disrupt the wedding. The messages, delivered through various channels, anonymous texts, cryptic emails, and even unsettling phone calls, cast a dark cloud over the couple's joy. They spoke of a deep-seated resentment, a desire to inflict pain and disrupt their happiness. The once bright anticipation of the wedding became tinged with fear and anxiety. Tay and Sarah initially tried to dismiss the threats as the work of a disgruntled acquaintance or a jealous competitor. However, the persistence and escalating intensity of the messages made it clear that this was something more serious. The threats were no longer vague warnings. They contained specific details about the wedding plans, the venue, and even the guest list, suggesting an intimate knowledge of their lives. The couple, increasingly alarmed, decided to take action. They reported the threats to the police, providing them with the disturbing messages and any information they could gather about potential suspects. However, the initial response from law enforcement was frustratingly slow. The police, burdened with numerous cases and lacking concrete evidence to identify the perpetrator, treated the threats as a low-priority nuisance. The lack of immediate action heightened the couple's anxiety. They felt vulnerable and exposed, their sense of security shattered. The wedding, once a symbol of their love and commitment, now felt like a target, a potential stage for something terrible to unfold. The ominous messages, looming over their preparations, transformed the joyous anticipation into a gnawing fear. They were left to grapple with the chilling reality that someone out there harbored a deep-seated animosity towards them and was determined to ruin their special day. The investigation into the tragic deaths of Tay and Sarah began with a flurry of activity. Detectives swarmed the wedding venue, meticulously collecting evidence and interviewing guests. The initial focus centered on Tay's business dealings. His rapid rise to success had undoubtedly made him some enemies, and investigators explored the possibility of a disgruntled competitor or a business rival seeking revenge. Interviews with Tay's colleagues and acquaintances painted a complex picture. Some described him as a driven and ambitious entrepreneur, while others hinted at ruthless tactics and a willingness to bend the rules to achieve his goals. The detectives meticulously followed each lead, poring over financial records, scrutinizing business contracts, and interviewing potential suspects. However, these initial inquiries yielded no concrete evidence. The investigation expanded to include Sarah's professional circle. Although she was not as deeply involved in the business world as Tay, her work as a rising lawyer had brought her into contact with individuals who might have harbored grudges. Detectives interviewed her colleagues, clients, and even opposing counsel, searching for any indication of a motive for murder. Yet, these efforts also proved fruitless. The initial stages of the investigation were marked by frustration and dead ends. The detectives, despite their tireless efforts, found themselves with a multitude of potential suspects, but no clear evidence to link any of them to the crime. The lack of progress fueled a growing sense of urgency. The public, eager for answers, demanded justice for the beloved couple. The pressure mounted on the investigators to find the killer and bring them to justice. In the aftermath of the tragedy, Jane presented herself as a grieving friend, offering condolences and support to the families of Tay and Sarah. She attended the funerals, her face etched with sorrow, her voice choked with emotion. She spoke of the beautiful couple, their love story, and the devastating loss that everyone felt. Her performance was convincing, and many were moved by her apparent grief. However, beneath the facade of mourning, Jane was carefully manipulating the situation to her advantage. She used her proximity to the investigation to gather information, subtly steering the detectives away from herself. She offered seemingly helpful insights, suggesting alternative theories and casting suspicion on others. She portrayed herself as a concerned friend, eager to assist in any way she could. During her interview with the police, Jane maintained her innocence. She answered questions with a calm demeanor, expressing shock and disbelief at the tragic events. She emphasized her friendship with both Tay and Sarah, highlighting the years they had spent together and the bond they had shared. She offered no indication of any animosity or resentment, presenting herself as a victim of a terrible tragedy. Jane's manipulative tactics were subtle but effective. She used her knowledge of the investigation to deflect suspicion, subtly planting seeds of doubt about other potential suspects. She played the role of the grieving friend to perfection, masking her true intentions behind a veil of sorrow. Her performance was a masterclass in deception, a carefully orchestrated act designed to protect herself from scrutiny. A breakthrough in the investigation came with the discovery of the burner phone used to send the threatening messages. Painstaking analysis of cell tower data placed the phone at Jane's residence during the time the messages were sent. This crucial piece of evidence shattered Jane's carefully constructed facade and placed her squarely at the center of the investigation. Armed with this new information, detectives confronted Jane. They presented her with the undeniable evidence, the phone records, and the location data. Initially, she denied any involvement, claiming the phone wasn't hers and she had no idea how it ended up at her residence. However, as the detectives pressed her with further evidence, her composure began to crack. She offered a series of weak explanations, suggesting that someone might have planted the phone to frame her, or that she had been unknowingly used as a pawn in a larger scheme. But her arguments lacked conviction, and the detectives remained unconvinced. They pointed out inconsistencies in her story, highlighting her intimate knowledge of the wedding details and her access to information that only someone close to the couple would possess. The confrontation escalated into a heated argument. Jane, backed into a corner, became increasingly agitated. She accused the detectives of harassment, of fixating on her while ignoring other potential suspects. But her outburst only served to strengthen their resolve. The evidence against her was mounting, and her desperate attempts to deflect blame only solidified their belief that they had finally found their killer. The investigation had taken a dramatic turn. Jane, the seemingly grieving friend, was now the prime suspect in the murder of Tay and Sarah. The evidence against her was compelling. The threatening messages, the burner phone traced to her residence, and her increasingly erratic behavior. But the question remained. Could someone so close to the couple be capable of such a horrific act? What could have driven Jane to commit such a heinous crime? Was it jealousy, a desire for revenge, or something more sinister? Share your thoughts and analysis in the comments below. Do you think the police missed any clues? Could there be another explanation for the evidence against Jane? Just when the case seemed to be nearing its conclusion, a new piece of evidence surfaced. A photograph taken during the wedding reception. The image, captured by a guest's camera, showed Jane entering the couple's private room with a tray of drinks. In her hand, a glass identical to the one from which Tay and Sarah had taken their final, fatal sips. The photograph, a silent witness to Jane's deceit, provided the missing link in the investigation, confirming her guilt and exposing her carefully orchestrated plan. The trial of Jane Doe captivated the nation. The courtroom was packed with reporters, family members of the victims, and curious onlookers, all eager to witness the unfolding drama. The prosecution presented a meticulously constructed case, laying out the evidence against Jane in chilling detail. They presented the threatening messages, the phone records linking Jane to the crime, and the damning photograph of her entering the couple's room with the poisoned drink. Jane, represented by a seasoned defense attorney, maintained her innocence throughout the trial. She took the stand, delivering a tearful testimony in which she denied any involvement in the murders. She attempted to portray herself as a victim of circumstance, a loyal friend who had been wrongly accused. However, her performance lacked conviction, and her explanations were riddled with inconsistencies. The jury, faced with overwhelming evidence and Jane's unconvincing testimony, deliberated for less than a day before returning a guilty verdict. The courtroom erupted in gasps and sobs as the verdict was read. Jane, her face pale and her eyes filled with a mixture of shock and defiance, was immediately taken into custody. The sentencing hearing was a somber affair. The judge, visibly moved by the tragic circumstances of the case, delivered a scathing rebuke of Jane's actions. He described her crimes as cold-blooded and calculated, emphasizing the devastating impact they had on the victims' families and the community as a whole. He sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole, ensuring that she would never again be able to harm another innocent person. The tragic story of Tay and Sarah serves as a chilling reminder of the destructive consequences of unchecked emotions. Jane's obsession, fueled by jealousy and resentment, led her down a dark path, ultimately culminating in a senseless act of violence that shattered lives and left a community in mourning. This case raises important questions about how we can better protect ourselves and our loved ones from such tragedies. How can we recognize the warning signs of obsessive behavior? How can we intervene before it's too late? If you or someone you know is experiencing stalking or domestic violence, please seek help. Resources are available in the description below. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share this video to help raise awareness about this important issue. What other true crime stories would you like us to cover? Let us know in the comments below.